Could somebody please make it make sense?
Hey everybody, welcome to A Pop of Culture. I'm your host, the Esoteric and Facetious, and this is A Pop of Culture, which is my video essay podcast where I speak on pop culture, social justice, and human experience from a Black, bisexual, millennial, Gen Z perspective. And in today's video, I want to talk about sexual shame in the Black gay community. So let's get into it. So a popular Black gay YouTuber by the name of Nico made his adult debut. He dived into adult content. He was somebody who previously just spoke about OnlyFans creators, Black gay OnlyFans creators and their drama, but he made that dive into adult content, and there's been a lot of controversy around it, and it actually hit on a subject that I wanted to talk on more broadly, which is the topic of sexual shame in the Black gay community. So I wanted to discuss the reaction, positive and negative, to Nico finally taking that dive into adult film, and how him taking that deep dive in the reaction response to it is emblematic of how the Black gay community reacts to hypersexuality and shame sexuality and adult content creators. So let's get into it. So as I said, Nico's Aesthetics, he's a Black gay YouTuber, pretty popular. He makes a lot of videos on Black gay OnlyFans drama, and he's built a name for himself talking about all the different situations, all the different beef, all the drama between the different creators. And if you've been paying attention to his content, his channel, slowly but surely he's dipped his toe into that pond himself with posting thirst trap photos and different stuff here and there before he finally made that deep dive into it. I believe he made a video about Raheem, I think that's how you say it, Raheem's harem. Like Raheem, he's another adult creator. So I believe Nico was invited to his harem, and so slowly over time it's more from Nico talking about these content creators and talking about them making this type of content, to him posting little thirst traps here and there, him being invited to the harem, and him slowly but surely making his own adult content. So of course, when he finally made his debut, there were people who were very happy about that, because there were people in his audience who were attracted to him, who wanted to see him in that light. So when he finally dropped that content, people were very happy to see him in that light, because I guess they'd always had that in the back of their head, wanting to see him in action. And then there were other people who were extremely upset and disgusted and angry and mad about the situation, about him, and who were saying things along the lines of, I thought he was different, I didn't think you were one of those types of people, I didn't think you were one of those types of Black gays. So I want to talk about my feelings on the situation. I personally have no issue with Nico or anybody doing adult content. He's in good shape, he's not hard on the eyes, so if he wants to monetize his sexuality in that way, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I don't think he's hurting anybody. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with him making that dive into that content. I don't really like this idea of, I thought you were different, I thought you weren't one of those people, because I feel like it forms this dichotomy within Black queer men. There are virtuous Black queer men who are on the right track, who are educated, or they have a career, or they're working towards something in life. And then there's those dirty, filthy adult content creators who make the OnlyFans stuff. There's this dichotomy of either you're on this side, you're a good, wholesome person who is on the up and up, who's doing the right things in life, who's to be respected and highly regarded, or you're a dirty, filthy person because you have the audacity to make money off of your sexuality and what you choose to do in the bedroom. It seems the requirement to be a good, virtuous queer man is to be someone who only has sex within a certain context, meaning, oh, you're in a committed relationship with your boyfriend, and if you deviate from that, if you're someone who has too many hookups, if you make adult content, then somehow now you can't be in this category of good person, good moral person. You're in this sick, disgusting, perverted category, and I don't like that. I think that you can be someone who is sexually active, but who also has morals and who is a good person. One of the problems I have with discussions in the Black gay community is there's this either or mentality. I don't really like this dichotomy, and I didn't really care for the negative comments that people were making about Nico, where they were trying to imply that somehow he's a worse person because he chose to make this content. I don't think that making adult content makes you a bad person. I don't think it means you have less character than other people, and I really resent that. I don't like this idea that either you're a good, wholesome person over here not making adult content, or you're this sick, disgusting pervert over here, because I feel like sexuality, being someone who has sexual urges and desires. That's a normal human thing. That's not something that people should be ashamed of. That's not something people should hide. People outside of the LGBT community think that any same-sex activity is disgusting and wrong and sinful. So it's weird to me that people inside of the community are so quick to shame people for making adult content. It's weird to me that people in the LGBT community will vilify sex in the context of adult content, because outside of our community, any type of same-sex activity is seen as disgusting and perverse and wrong. So it's weird that inside the community, there's still shame that's going about. Because it's like, didn't people come out the closet and didn't people fight for rights so that people in the community wouldn't necessarily be judged for acknowledging their attractions and doing what they want to do with their body? I definitely have seen a pattern of Black gay content creators who don't make adult content easing their way into adult content because they have a lot of interest in that content from their audience, and they may also have already had interest in doing that content before their audience started begging for them to make that type of content. And slowly but surely these content creators will ease into it. They may start posting thirst traps, and if those get positive reception, then they'll slowly but surely ease their way into making full out adult content on platforms like OnlyFans. And whenever this happens, you'll see some Black queer men who will come out shaming them, as I said earlier, and a lot of them will push this one singular narrative about Black gay adult content creators. They'll speak about this one path that they feel every Black gay adult content creator is bound to go upon. They'll speak about a friend they had or friends they've had that went into that industry. They'll speak about how these people, they were young people, young, handsome, fit men who had all of these goals, had all of this life in front of them, had all of this potential, all of these talents they could use to make a living, to find success in life, etc., etc. But once they got into this industry, it basically chewed them up and spit them out. They'll talk about people who they knew who were fit, attractive, people with potential, who may have had a degree or had a full-time career, but once they go into this industry, there are a lot of consequences to them being in this industry. They'll speak about how these people often end up strung out on drugs. They'll speak about how a lot of these people will end up broke. One of the things I constantly hear when it comes to people shaming people who get into adult content creation, is that the money initially may be really good. They may be getting a lot of positive attention from people because they're making this type of content, but the narrative is, even though initially the money is good, even though the attention that they get from people within the community is good, eventually they're going to get strung out on drugs, they're going to be broke, and they're just going to become a shell of their former self. They're going to be chewed up and spit out by the industry, and whatever money they made, whatever they accomplished, it'll all have been for nothing. It's always going to turn into drug addiction, death, suicide, mental health issues, poverty, homelessness. And here's my thing, I definitely respect my Black queer elders who paved the way for me to be able to be the person I am and exist comfortably as the person I am. And I do feel there's some truth to the narratives that they're spreading. There are some people out there who were involved in the adult entertainment industry who were chewed up and spit out, who didn't make it to see 35, who didn't make it to see 40, who went into the industry thinking that it was going to make them all this money and all this fame and all this clout, but who left the industry a shell of what they used to be. But here's my issue with that type of narrative. Yes, that has happened to real people. There are real people where that was their story. Poverty, drugs, negativity, regretting ever being in that industry. But the problem with that is people are projecting that outcome onto every single person who enters into the industry. And I don't think that's necessarily fair. While it's sad that these people, some of the people they were close to, some of the people that they were friends with, it's sad that the industry had such a negative effect on them. But I don't think it's necessarily fair to say that that's going to be the fate that's going to befall every single Black gay adult content creator. And one of the things I'll say in relation to this is there definitely are people who do make adult content, but they'll talk about how they use that income to benefit their life. While there are some people who are making these big OnlyFans checks who are spending their money like it's never going to dry up, there are also people who are taking that money and actually investing it into other financial opportunities so that they won't have to do that forever. They're making the quick money, but they're turning that quick money into actual sustainable businesses and sustainable investments. So I don't necessarily think it's fair for people to say that every single person who makes that type of content is going to end up broke, mentally ill, or dead. I'm not trying to validate what the elders are saying. Obviously, the outcomes that are described by these elders have happened to real people, but I don't think it's fair to project them onto every single person who gets into the industry. I'm not an expert on that genre or that industry, but one of the things I'll say when it comes to OnlyFans creators is even though they are contracted workers for OnlyFans and it's not necessarily their company, I do feel there's a difference between someone working for OnlyFans under their their own name and under their own brand versus people back in the day who are working for production companies. And like I said, I'm not an expert, but I do feel nowadays people who make adult content, more of the power is in their hands. So I don't think it's fair to project this idea that every single person who is an adult content creator is going to end up broke, mentally ill, or dead, because the game has changed a little bit where the people have a little bit more of a say in how they're being portrayed, the amount of money they're going to make. They have a lot more authority in that than they did in the past because of the shift in how that type of content is being shared. So I don't really agree with the elders who try to make it out that every person who does that type of content is going to have negative impacts because of the content, because part of the reason why those people may have ended up on drugs, broke, dead, maybe because they were not actually in charge of how much money they were making. I don't really like this idea that every single person who does that type of content is going to end up broke, mentally ill, or dead, because I think it ignores the fact that there's a lot more autonomy with creators. That's one of my issues I have when it comes to the conversation of Black gay YouTubers and influencers turning to OnlyFans, is a lot of elders will come out of the woodwork talking about how that path only leads to destruction, when the reality is I think there's a lot of survivorship bias. And it's kind of the opposite of survivorship bias. So I want to break that down. When we talk about survivorship bias in regards to business and entrepreneurship, if you're somebody who creates a YouTube channel, if you're someone who creates a small business and it's extremely successful, you may tell people, yeah, you should create a YouTube channel. Yeah, it's easy. Yeah, you should start a small business. My YouTube channel got 1 million followers within a year. My small business got over $1 million in profit in the first year. Because you were able to accomplish that within a year, you feel anybody else who works hard and applies himself can also do it. So there's this survivorship bias that because you were able to do it, anybody else who works hard, anyone who puts a lot of effort into their business or YouTube channel can also do it. But the problem is you don't see all those other people who started a YouTube channel that did not pop like that, or small businesses that didn't pop like that, where they had to close up their doors, they were in debt after trying to make it happen. Because you were the person who made it, you were that small percentage of people who do make it in that way. Your survivorship bias doesn't allow you to see that several other people didn't make it. Your survivorship bias makes you think anybody can duplicate the results you had, even though there were a lot of other people with that same goal who did the same things you did, but they didn't find that success. So in regards to the conversation relating to Black gay adult content creators, there's this opposite survivorship bias where because the people you knew and interacted with had a negative outcome, you are projecting that negative outcome onto anybody who enters into that industry and space, even though it's unlikely every single person who went into that industry regrets it or hates it. So bringing this back to Nico, people obviously followed Nico for a reason, they like Nico for a reason, so I don't really like this energy I'm seeing with a lot of different people trying to act like, oh my gosh, he made adult content, like I can't even look at him anymore. I can't look at him the same way. I can't believe he's one of them, because I don't really understand why there is this vilifying of sex. Like, sex is a natural thing. Now, I will say I'm not somebody who wants to make adult content. I don't want that to be a part of my brand, and I respect people not wanting that to be a part of their brand. So I will say I don't think just because sex is a natural thing, I don't think that means that you have to celebrate when your favorite YouTuber makes that turn into OnlyFans content. I have mixed feelings about the situation, because on one hand, I don't think there's anything wrong with having sex or being sex positive, but at the same time I don't think there's anything wrong with somebody being uncomfortable about their favorite YouTuber participating in content where they're doing a lot of adult things with a lot of other adult people. I don't think Nico is wrong for being an adult who's capable of consenting, doing adult things with other consenting adults. I don't think there's anything wrong with you being a follower of his and seeing that content and then maybe being made uncomfortable or seeing him in a different light. I don't think you have to like that content to be a good person. My struggle with the whole conversation is you cannot like that content while not shaming somebody for participating in it. For example, with Walter Lee Hampton, even though I respect him as an elder in the community who's been vocal about things like HIV and other issues within the community, one of the struggles I have with him is I feel like there's not a lot of nuance to his conversations about sex in the gay community. Walter will constantly be talking about people getting STDs, getting HIV in this very negative tone. He'll talk about other Black gay men being sexually active, and he'll always put in a negative context. And here's my opinion. I do think that HIV is real, and even though HIV is something that's treatable and it's something that people can live with and live a long, full life with, I do think that HIV is a real concern, and I think that people in the community should be vocal about the importance of getting on PrEP or using protection, understanding the risk if you do choose to be sexually active. I do think people should be vocal about the risk of HIV and other STDs, but the problem I have is there's a way to spread awareness about HIV prevention without shaming people for being sexually active. attractive. And one of the problems I have with the Black and gay community is it seems a lot of people don't know how to balance the two. People turn HIV awareness and HIV prevention into sex shaming. And I see that with the shaming of adult content creators. People will imply that because someone does adult content, they're ridden with STDs and they're filthy and they'll just have anybody. And I don't necessarily think that's the case. Just because someone chooses to collaborate on content with other people in the community doesn't mean that they're willing to have anybody. And a lot of people who do adult content do get tested regularly, and they're also on PrEP. One of the things I will say when it comes to the conversation about sexual shame, I do feel like there is a valid argument to be made that some young people who are getting into this business or into this industry don't fully understand the impact that being in this industry could have on their future. Because there are people as young as 18 years old who are posting full out scenes and collaborations online. I'm 24 and I'm young and I'm still trying to figure things out in life. I think sometimes people can get caught in the amount of money they can make, and they may not understand that this content that they put out there, it may never go away. Once you put that out there onto the internet, people can save it, people can archive it. Once you cross that threshold into that type of content, people are going to look at you in a different way, and I do think that it shouldn't be that way. I don't think that we should shame people for being adult content creators, but that's unfortunately the world we live in. Hey y'all, this is an add-on to the Nico video. One of the things I want to say here that does kind of annoy me with the whole conversation of people looking down on adult content creators is the way that some of y'all are explicit AF in your personal life. Now, I will say there is a difference between being somebody who posts videos of yourself doing all these adult things for other people to watch and you just doing that in your personal life. But I do think there is a little bit of hypocrisy, because let's keep it real, there are a lot of queer men who are on these apps like Jack'd, Scruff, Grindr, and they'll have usernames like 𝑭𝒐𝒍𝒍𝒐𝒘22. So it's like some of y'all are 𝑭𝒐𝒍𝒍𝒐𝒘22 on Grindr, but then you want to clutch your pearls when somebody like Nico decides to make that dive into that online content. So it's just like, is it only okay if it's on your Grindr profile, but it's not okay when it's on Twitter? And I will say those are different things, because putting that image out there versus doing that in private or in a hookup app, I don't think those are necessarily the exact same thing. But I do think there is some hypocrisy in clutching your pearls and acting like it's the most shocking thing ever when you doing that every night on Grindr. That's all I have to say. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. Like this video if you like this video. Let me know if you agree or disagree with the points I made in the comments below. If you enjoyed this content, definitely like, comment, subscribe, and share. That way, even if YouTube isn't pushing my content, those who resonate with it are sharing it so it can connect with others who would enjoy it. Those are some easy, free ways to support a pop of culture. If you want to support this show financially, feel free to send a tip to my Cash App or buy me a cup of coffee. Both are linked below. All who donate will be featured in the credits of my long-form commentary and cover videos. There are 2 playlists that are going to pop up, one where you can binge watch my covers and one where you can binge watch my commentary. Enjoy. Bye-bye.